She stole my package and ended up glowing like a neon swamp monster in front of the entire neighborhood. I didn't plan on starting a war with the HOA president, but when she stole from me and thought she could get away with it, I decided to make her the brightest criminal in Maple Creek. My name's Michael Prentice, and this is how I turned my nightmare neighbor into a walking glitter bomb. I'd lived in Maple Creek for 3 quiet years. I liked it here: tall oaks, quiet mornings, a decent view of the pond behind my house. But peace doesn't last long when your HOA president is named Karen. Karen Hoolan ran our HOA like a petty dictatorship. Clipboard always in hand, lips pursed like she was permanently smelling something sour. She'd fine you for breathing wrong if she could figure out how to put that into a bylaw. Her teenage son, Grant, was a carbon copy, same smug face, same entitlement, just with worse hygiene and a louder moped. The trouble started with a pair of sneakers. Limited edition Cosmic Comets, deep blue with silver streaks. I'd saved up for them for months. Took 100 photos when they arrived, tucked the box inside my foyer, and set the shipping box out on the porch for pickup. I thought I was being careful. A day later, the box vanished, but I didn't think much of it. Then, 2 mornings later, I saw Grant swaggering down the sidewalk with his friends, wearing my sneakers. I recognized them instantly. The tiny scuff mark on the left toe, my scuff, my mistake from the first time I tried them on. I felt my heart pound so hard it drowned out the sprinklers. He caught my stare, smirked, lifted his foot like a runway model, and winked. That was it. That smug, punchable grin snapped something in me. But I knew how this would go. If I confronted him, he'd cry foul. Mommy Dearest would swoop in shrieking about harassment, and suddenly I'd be the villain. So I swallowed it, walked inside, and sat there staring at the empty space where the box had been. I wasn't going to lose my temper. I was going to outsmart her. That night I started what I called the Hoolan file. A notebook, a pen, and a lot of righteous anger. I logged every detail: when the package arrived, when it vanished, what Grant was wearing. I even sketched the shoes. It felt good, like taking back control. But soon the game changed. Karen started sending me HOA violation notices. $50 for an improperly coiled hose. Another $50 because my mailbox flag stayed up too long. It was laughable. Until I realized the pattern. I was being targeted. When I talked to my neighbors, the floodgates opened. Mr. Henderson, retired Navy, fined for tonal discord in his wind chimes. Mrs. Gable across the street fined because her welcome mat clashed with the community color palette. It wasn't enforcement, it was punishment. And the only house improving from all those fines, Karen's. A brand new marble fountain appeared in her front yard labeled HOA Beautification Project. I guess she thought that word meant personal spa. Weeks passed. I kept paying the ridiculous fines, adding every one to my Hoolan file. But when my nephew's birthday package, a giant Lego set, was stolen right off my porch, I snapped. This time I saw Grant shoving the box into the back of his mom's SUV. I called the police. They listened politely, wrote a report, and told me what I already knew. Without video proof, they couldn't do much. When the officer left, I sat alone at my kitchen table staring at my useless notebook. That's when doubt crept in. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't them. Maybe I should just move. But then I looked out the window, saw Karen walking her little clipboard patrol, smiling like she owned every square foot of this neighborhood, and that thought died instantly. No, she wanted me to give up. She wanted me to roll over like everyone else. That's when the plan hit me. If they needed proof, I'd give them proof. And a show. My neighbor Mitch was a retired engineer and a bit of a mad scientist. When I brought him a six-pack and my idea, he lit up like a Christmas tree. "You want a glitter bomb?" he said, grinning ear to ear. "Oh, I can do better than that." In a week, we had a spring-loaded decoy package rigged to blast a mix of biodegradable neon glitter and skin-safe green dye. Non-toxic, perfectly legal, and guaranteed to humiliate. I added a tiny GPS tracker to the bottom. The bait was ready. I placed the box on my porch in full view. a fake shipping label from a high-end electronics store, 2 hidden cameras, one in the doorframe and one in a birdhouse. Then I waited. 1 day passed, 2, nothing. By day 3, I was ready to call it a failed experiment. And then the silver SUV pulled up. Karen stepped out, clipboard in hand, pretending to inspect a neighbor's hedge. Her eyes flicked to my porch. She hesitated, looked around, then marched straight up the walkway and without missing a beat snatched the box. Smooth, practiced like she'd done it 100 times. I watched the feed in real time, grinning as she strutted away. 5 minutes later, a faint pop echoed from across the street, followed by a scream. I looked up just in time to see her burst onto her porch, glowing radioactive green covered head to toe in glitter. Her hair sparkled. Her skin glowed. Her hands were slime-colored. She looked like a Muppet dipped in antifreeze. She locked eyes with me across the street, pointed a shaking green finger, and shrieked, "You'll regret this." It was glorious. But I wasn't done. The GPS tracker was still active. Later that night, I followed the signal to a self-storage facility on the edge of town. Karen's SUV went in. 15 minutes later, it came out empty. I waited until she was gone, then peered through a gap under the door of the unit marked C27. My breath caught. Inside were stacks of boxes, Amazon, Best Buy, Target, hundreds of them. Some even dusted with the same neon glitter. The whole neighborhood's stolen packages hoarded in one place. I filmed everything from the sidewalk, no trespassing. When I shined Mitch's UV flashlight, the inside lit up like a crime scene from CSI. The glitter left a glowing trail right to her lock. I called the police. "You'll want to see this," I said calmly. "Case number 124. I found your stolen property." They arrived within the hour. Sergeant Miller looked over the footage and just muttered, "That's clever as hell. They couldn't open the unit yet, but they got a warrant the same night." It was official. I'd just cracked Maple Creek's biggest HOA scandal. For the first time in months, I felt relief. Maybe justice was coming. But Karen wasn't finished. The next day, 2 large men in black polos knocked on my door. The logo said HOA Security. I'd never heard of such a thing. One looked like a linebacker, the other like a string bean with a bad attitude. Mr. Prentice, the big one, rumbled, "We're here about unauthorized surveillance equipment on your property." My gut clenched. This was her retaliation. "Never seen you before," I said. "Got ID." The skinny one sneered, "We're the ID." Then he jabbed a finger at my doorbell camera. "That's a violation. You need to come with us." I started recording with my phone. "You're on my property," I said, voice steady. "Leave now." The big one slammed a hand on my door to stop it from closing. My pulse spiked, but just then Mr. Henderson stepped outside to check his mail, saw the scene, and raised his own phone. "I'm recording too," he shouted. The 2 men flinched. I called their bluff. "Fine," I said, stepping outside. "Let's inspect the gate." We walked to my backyard. The big guy shoved me hard against it. My phone caught the whole thing. Henderson's voice thundered from the driveway. "That's assault." They froze, turned pale, and bolted to an unmarked sedan. I watched them peel away. My hands were shaking, but I was done being scared. That video was going in the file. 2 days later, I had everything I needed. Evidence, police reports, witnesses. But I wanted more than an arrest. I wanted her gone. I dug through the HOA bylaws and found a buried gem, Article 10, Section 4. Any board member could be recalled by a 25% homeowner vote. I printed petitions titled Recall of President Karen Hewlin and Board of Directors and went door to door. People didn't just sign, they practically snatched the clipboard from my hands. Mrs. Gable signed with a flourish, muttering, "Aggressively pink flowers my ass." By the 3rd day, I had over half the neighborhood on my side. The recall meeting felt like a courtroom drama. The clubhouse was packed. Karen sat at the front table between her 2 loyal minions, Stan and Brenda, trying to look composed. I walked to the podium, connected my laptop, and smiled. Our HOA, A Journey into Madness, appeared on the screen. The first half of my presentation was comedy photos of violations, each followed by a cash register sound effect. Laughter spread through the crowd. Even Stan cracked a smile. Then I switched slides. "But it's not funny anymore," I said. The room went quiet. "This is about harassment, theft, intimidation." I showed the video of her stealing the box glowing green, screaming. Gasps, laughter, disbelief. Then the footage of the storage unit. Silence. Then the 2 fake security guards shoving me on camera. Rage. Karen jumped up shouting, "This is slander." I turned to her calmly. "No, Karen, this is evidence." She sat down shaking. Right then, the sound of sirens pierced the tension. Everyone turned. Through the clubhouse windows, red and blue lights flashed. The doors swung open and Sergeant Miller walked in, flanked by 2 officers. "Karen Hewlin," he said evenly, "you are under arrest for felony theft, possession of stolen property, and misuse of HOA funds." She froze as Officer Chen cuffed her hands. A few green glitter flakes drifted from her hair and landed on the floor. The room was silent except for the click of the cuffs. Grant tried to lunge at me, shouting, "You ruined everything." But 2 neighbors held him back as the officers led him out behind his mother. Stan and Brenda just sat there, pale as ghosts. Miller turned to the crowd. "We recovered over 200 stolen packages from a storage unit rented in Ms. Hewlin's name. If you've lost property recently, please file a claim." He added that the so-called HOA security team had also been arrested for assault and misuse of association funds. That did it. The room erupted. Years of fear turned into cheers. The recall vote passed unanimously. Karen's reign was over. The woman who once fined me for a crooked hose was now headed to jail for grand theft. As the officers drove away, I stood at the window, the laughter fading into quiet relief. My porch was safe again. My neighbors had their voices back, and all it took was a little glitter, a camera, and a lot of patience. Because sometimes justice doesn't come in a courtroom. Sometimes it comes in a box wrapped rigged and waiting for the right thief to open it.